You drag yourself to the gym for hours every single week. You obsessively count every calorie that enters your mouth, and you cut out carbohydrates until you are miserable. Yet, despite all that suffering, a few months later, the scale creates a sense of dread because you are right back where you started. This cycle is not a personal failure of discipline. It happens to 95% of people who attempt to diet long-term. The reason is simple but frustrating. Your body is biologically wired to fight against weight loss. When you starve yourself, your metabolism drops drastically to conserve energy. And your hunger hormones, specifically ghrelin, skyrocket because your brain is convinced you are in a famine. Your body does not care about your desire to look good for summer vacation. It only cares about keeping you alive. This biological defense mechanism is why willpower eventually crumbles. You are fighting millions of years of evolution designed to keep you heavy, and that is a battle you are statistically destined to lose. But here is where the story gets incredibly fascinating and contradicts everything you have been told about weight loss. Remember to hit like and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. Japan has an obesity rate of just 4.5%, which is one of the lowest in the developed world and nearly 10 times lower than the rates seen in the United States. What makes this statistic mind-blowing is that the average Japanese person eats rice, noodles, and processed snacks every single day. So what is really going on here? It is certainly not genetics, as studies show that Japanese and American genes are not significantly different regarding fat storage. It is not that they smoke more to suppress their appetites. While smoking rates are high, Japanese men actually smoke more than American men, yet remain thinner. And it is definitely not the gym. In fact, only about 3% of the Japanese population even holds a gym membership compared to the massive fitness industry in the West. They are doing something fundamentally different that allows them to stay effortlessly slim without the torture. The answer does not lie in dieting harder or punishing yourself with more treadmill hours, it lies in living smarter. The Japanese secret is not about intense restriction, but about intelligent lifestyle design. Once you understand how their environment is structured, you realize that staying lean is less about fighting your urges and more about engineering your life so that willpower becomes unnecessary. They rely on science-backed habits that reprogram their relationship with food without the feeling of starvation. The first major difference begins before they can even speak. In Japan, food education is not an afterthought. It is a core part of the school curriculum. Every single lunch is planned by a professional nutritionist, made fresh daily from scratch, and eaten together in the classroom. There are no vending machines packed with soda, and there are no processed cafeteria foods. Children grow up tasting the complex, subtle flavors of vegetables, fish, and rice, and this becomes their foundational baseline for what normal food should taste like. In stark contrast, school lunches in the United States are often outsourced to profit-driven companies that prioritize cost over health. They serve items like tater tots, pizza, and chocolate milk, which are essentially factory-made products designed to be hyper-palatable. This environment trains a developing brain to crave sugar and salt from a very young age. The key lesson here is that taste is nothing more than a habit. You can actually retrain your palate at any age, just like the Japanese do in childhood. It might seem impossible now, but if you slowly replace one processed item a week with a fresh alternative, your brain starts to crave real nutrition again. This is not about banning foods you love. It is about shifting your baseline. When you stop bombarding your tongue with artificial flavors, natural food starts to taste richer and more satisfying. This is the first step in escaping the diet trap. Stop fighting your cravings and start reprogramming the mechanism that creates them. Another major factor keeping the Japanese slim without effort is how they approach fast food and healthy convenience. Japan has 15 times more convenience stores than the United States, yet their population does not suffer from the same metabolic diseases. The difference lies entirely in the available options. Their fast food does not consist of greasy burgers and heavily processed burritos. Instead, it features items like rice bowls topped with grilled fish, fresh tofu, and warm miso soup. These nutritious meals are incredibly affordable, often costing just a few dollars, and are accessible on nearly every street corner. Convenience does not have to mean junk food. In behavioral psychology, this concept is known as environmental design. We often believe we are making conscious choices about our diets, but the truth is our environment makes those choices for us. Japan simply made high-quality, whole foods the easiest and most accessible default option for its citizens. Therefore, if you genuinely want to eat better, you should not waste your energy fighting your cravings. Instead, you must change what surrounds you daily. By altering your environment, you eliminate the need for sheer willpower. This seamlessly ties into their cultural approach to portion control, which is completely painless and naturally ingrained in their society. The Japanese culture deeply values moderation, heavily guided by a traditional concept known as hara hachi, which translates to eating until you are roughly 80% full. Meals are traditionally served across multiple smaller dishes, offering a wide variety of rice, soup, fish, and vegetables. Because the food is spread out, your brain is tricked into feeling deeply satisfied even though you have consumed significantly less. You will not find giant sodas or restaurants offering all-you-can-eat buffets and endless free refills. This is a brilliant manipulation of what psychologists call the unit bias, which dictates how we perceive appropriate meal sizes. The unit bias proves that humans feel finished eating when their plate is empty, regardless of whether their stomach is physically full. Consequently, utilizing smaller plates naturally equals consuming fewer calories, which entirely removes that dreadful feeling of dietary restriction. This built-in portion control extends directly into their sugar awareness. The average Japanese person consumes exactly half the amount of sugar an American does in a given year. Their packaged drinks are notably smaller. A standard soda can in Japan contains 150 milliliters, whereas an American equivalent holds 350 milliliters of heavily sweetened liquid. When you consistently consume smaller amounts of sweetness, your taste receptors undergo a profound biological reset over time. Researchers conducted a study demonstrating that when individuals reduce their overall sugar intake by just 40% for 2 consecutive months, their perception drastically changes. These participants began rating moderately sweet foods as 40% sweeter than they previously did. This proves that you do not need massive quantities of syrup to enjoy a dessert. Your palate simply needs time to adjust to reality. By replacing just one sugary beverage a day with a zero-calorie option like green tea, you naturally lower your stress hormones. This biological reset extends far beyond just taste and heavily influences how the Japanese structure their daily eating habits. The vast majority of the population consumes their 3 main meals at highly consistent times every single day. A typical schedule involves eating breakfast before 9 in the morning, enjoying lunch before 1 in the afternoon, and finishing dinner before 8 at night. When your food intake follows a reliable rhythm, your internal hormones naturally synchronize with that exact same rhythm. This hormonal balance drastically reduces the urge for binge eating, random afternoon snacking, and those intense late-night cravings that destroy diet progress. If your daily eating schedule is erratic and chaotic, your brain enters a state of mild panic and reflexively grabs whatever food is nearby. This usually results in choosing the absolute worst, highly processed options available because your body is desperately seeking immediate energy. Predictability is essentially the hidden half of dietary discipline that most fitness influencers completely ignore. When your body knows exactly when the next nutrient-dense meal is coming, it stops sending frantic hunger signals throughout the day. This simple structural change transforms staying slim from a daily psychological battle into an effortless, unconscious background process of your life. Another profound difference is that the Japanese generally do not treat exercise as a separate, grueling chore they must complete. Instead of dedicating hours to exhausting gym sessions, they simply incorporate constant movement into their normal daily routines. They walk to the local train station, they intentionally take the stairs instead of the elevator, and they frequently ride bicycles to run their errands. Scientific literature refers to this continuous low-effort activity as non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which essentially means burning calories through everyday movements. The result is that these small, continuous actions add up to a massive daily calorie burn. This lack of forced physical stress is perfectly mirrored in how they physically consume their meals without rushing the process. The traditional use of chopsticks naturally slows down the entire eating experience, which is a massive psychological advantage. It takes approximately 20 minutes for your stomach to send the chemical signals to your brain confirming that you are actually full. When you eat rapidly with a large fork or spoon, you easily consume thousands of calories before your brain even registers the food. By deliberately eating slower, you provide your neurological system the necessary time to accurately calculate your satiety levels without ever feeling restricted. If you do not use chopsticks, you can achieve this exact same biological advantage by simply putting your fork or spoon down completely between every single bite. Take a deep breath and genuinely enjoy the flavors, instead of treating your meal like a race against the clock. This brings us to perhaps the most vital habit of all, which involves their deep cultural respect for the food itself. In Japan, you will rarely see people eating while walking down the street, staring endlessly at their mobile phones, or aggressively multitasking at their office desks. Eating is fundamentally treated as a deliberate moment of profound respect, almost resembling a miniature daily ceremony. When you dedicate your full attention to the physical act of eating, everything about your biological response changes dramatically. By eating slowly and intentionally, you force your brain to reconnect with your body's natural signaling system. You begin to actually feel true hunger, genuine fullness, and profound satisfaction instead of mindless consumption. The average person in the West consumes their meals while constantly distracted by screens and stressful emails, completely ignoring what their stomach is desperately trying to communicate. This constant state of distraction is precisely what leads to accidentally eating thousands of unnecessary daily calories. The ultimate Japanese secret to a long, lean, and healthy life is not some mysterious, newly discovered crash diet that will be sold in a fitness magazine. It is a fundamental shift in your daily mindset that prioritizes balance, reliable rhythm, and ultimate respect for the nourishment you provide your body. They recognize that sustainable weight control fundamentally comes from shaping your environment and practicing mindful habits, rather than relying on endless cycles of strict deprivation. You must stop viewing the human body as an enemy that constantly needs to be fought, starved, and brutally punished inside a gymnasium for several hours every single week. When you finally stop fighting your own biology and instead learn how to carefully listen to its natural cues, remaining slim stops being an exhausting daily battle and simply becomes your normal lifestyle. You are no longer relying on fleeting willpower because your immediate environment and your daily routines are doing all the psychological heavy lifting for you. You do not need to book a flight across the world to begin implementing these powerful behavioral changes into your own existence right now. By embracing these deeply ingrained, science-backed habits, you can effectively reprogram your relationship with food forever and successfully escape the endless loop of dieting failure.